Imagine the underdog, armed with nothing but a few stones, defeating an armored behemoth. Sounds like a fairy tale, right? But the David and Goliath story is more than a myth. It is a profound blueprint for understanding the psychology of power dynamics and how often our biggest fears are based on flawed perceptions. Discover the hidden strategies that allowed an unlikely hero to triumph, and how you can apply these principles to your own giants. Goliath looked untouchable, but his greatest strength carried within it the seed of his downfall. And that's the hidden truth you must see when you face your own giants. What intimidates you most often has fatal flaws that arrogance blinds it from noticing. Goliath's towering size created the illusion of invincibility, but his very bulk made him slow. His heavy armor chained him to tradition, and his confidence in brute force locked him into one predictable strategy. That is the psychology of the giant complex. When someone or something looks unshakable on the surface, but secretly stands on a foundation of fragility. David saw what everyone else missed. The armor that promised security was actually a trap. The strength that drew fear was also clumsy. And the reputation that silenced Israel's army was nothing more than noise without substance. In your life, the same principle unfolds. Companies that seem too big to fail collapse because they can't pivot. Leaders who boast of their control miss the quiet innovators, disrupting their empires, and even the inner giants of fear. Addiction or self-doubt seem monstrous, until you recognize they are overgrown shadows more than indestructible realities. David's victory was not accidental. It was born out of unconventional thinking, and here lies the shocking secret. His lack of traditional training was not a weakness, but his sharpest weapon, because it freed him from the rigid expectations that trapped every soldier around him. He didn't march with a sword. He brought a sling, a weapon despised by warriors, but devastating against someone who could barely move under the weight of his own armor. Strategy always beats size, and mindset always outweighs muscle. Proverbs 21:31 reminds us, "The horse is prepared for the day of battle, but victory belongs to the Lord." What gave David power was not only skill, but a mindset anchored in faith, confidence, and ruthless focus, the kind that refused to let the roars of the enemy define the outcome. This is the psychology of the underdog. You reframe your so-called disadvantages until they become the very things that make you dangerous. David's small stature meant he could move faster. His agility meant Goliath's sword could never catch him. And his youth meant he didn't carry the heavy baggage of fear that paralyzed seasoned soldiers. Sometimes the fact that people underestimate you is the most powerful fuel for your rise, because what is dismissed becomes invisible, and what is invisible can strike without warning. Your challenge is to cultivate a David mindset, one that sees what others ignore and dares to weaponize what they call weakness. That's why Paul could declare in 2 Corinthians 12:10, "When I am weak, then I am strong." Because what the world sees as insufficiency, God sees as the perfect stage for his power to manifest. So ask yourself now, what is your Goliath? Maybe it's a career setback that towers over your confidence, a competitor in the market who seems unbeatable, or the quieter but deadlier enemy of your own self-doubt whispering you will never be enough. To face these giants, you cannot rely on conventional weapons. You must craft your own sling, your unique advantage forged in the hidden places where no one is watching. For some, that sling is creativity. For others, it's resilience. For others, it's prayer, wisdom, or the discipline to endure when everyone else quits. The shocking truth is that the battle is often won in the mind, long before it's fought in the field. And the real weapon you carry is the ability to see differently when everyone else is blinded by fear. David saw not a giant, but a vulnerable man trapped in his own size. You must see not an impossible obstacle, but a weakness waiting to be struck. And when you step into your battlefield with faith like David S., knowing that the Lord who delivered him from the lion and the bear is the same God. Standing with you now, your Goliath will fall not because you are stronger, but because you finally believed that giants were never as invincible as they looked.